What's your story? Do you tell yourself a story of who you are in a way that is empowering and strengthened and victorious? Or are you always talking to yourself in a way that shows that your story is a story of defeat, powerlessness, and limitation? Well, if that's you, regardless of how you are, you can always improve the way you see yourself, because the way you see your story and the stories you tell yourself will define who you are. And today we're going to talk about this and how to shift your story in the different areas of your life so that you can feel more empowered and really maximize your potential. Are you ready? Let's get started. My name is Estefania Viso, and I'm a success coach and a speaker for women and youth. And I work with people to help them align with their purpose, live a more passionate life, and do big things in the world. And so that's what I do, and I love it. And that's why today we're going to talk about meaning. The meaning you give to your life experience is what will shape the way you experience life and how much you achieve it. I want you to achieve the most that you can. So today I want to ask you, when you write your story based on the meaning of what's happened to you, past experiences, the way your parents treated you, the way life has treated you, the things that you've been through, or the identity that you have of yourself, are you telling yourself a story that is empowering you? Think about it. Or are you telling yourself a story that is limiting you? And I want you to grab pen and paper, because we're going to give you some pointers today that will help you identify what perspective you're looking at your life from. So how many of you have a story in an area of your life that is empowering, but perhaps in another area of your life you may have a story that tells you that you are not successful, and you tell yourself that the reason why perhaps your relationships are not successful as much as your career is because a certain excuse or a certain reason, and there's a whole story behind why your relationships or whatever is not working out in your life. But chances are there are areas of your life that are going pretty well. So it's all about your perspective and how you define yourself in that area. And I want to tell you a story. Steve Jobs was a kid who was, you know his story. He was, his mom gave him up for adoption. And after he was adopted, when he was an older child, he was actually bullied by a little girl who told him that he was, that went to him and told him, you know what, you were discarded. You were, basically your parents just gave you away. They left you behind and they discarded you. And when this little girl tells that to Steve Jobs starts crying and sobbing, sits down on the grass and just cries out until his adopted parents come to him and ask him what happened. And he tells them what happened, and he says, there was a girl who told me that I was discarded, that I wasn't someone who was, worth it. And so his parents, who actually had a lot of love for him, they weren't very wealthy, but they had the biggest resource, which is love. They went to him and told him, guess what, son? You were not discarded, you were chosen, because we literally chose you out of a group of kids, and you were the one for us. And so now Steve Jobs started living his life from that perspective of thinking that he was chosen. Which one of those things are true? The fact that he was discarded or the fact that he was chosen? Both of them are true, but the meaning that he gave to his story that day, thanks to his parents, changed his life. And so thinking that he was chosen allowed him to be able to achieve more and to really see his life from a power perspective, from a perspective of victory, and from a perspective of strength. Okay, so in your life, I want you to think of some areas where you feel like your story limits you. I want you to write down, what are the beliefs that are limiting you? Are you thinking that you were discarded, or are you looking at the story from a different angle and thinking, well, I might have been discarded, that is true, but I was also chosen. So every story has two sides. You're the one who picks the side you want to look at it from, and you pick the perspective that you focus on. And that, my friends, will change your life. Your decision on what you focus on when it comes to your experience. And so that is just the beginning, the awareness of what you're focusing on. And then the two things I want you to do to start really changing and shifting the way you look at your story is to look at, number one, and actually there's three things that I want to tell you. Number one is remember who you truly are. And if you don't know who you are as an eternal being, an all-powerful being that is here for eternity and to expand and to transcend, Go try to connect with your spiritual side, try to grow your spiritual practice, or remember the teachings that you've learned in your church, in your shrine, or wherever you go, or in your own readings of spirituality. Remember that you are an eternal being, that you're a beautiful being of light, and you are not really what the world has taught you to define based on your personality, based on society's perception of you. You are more than that. So once you remember your identity and who you are, and you know that you are loved by a beautiful God that has love for you and that made you by design, that helps you get away from any stories that are limiting, right? That's the first step, knowing your identity. The second step is actually find yourself and ask yourself, what am I focusing on in this situation or in my story? Are you looking back at your past and focusing on where you failed? Or are you looking back at your past and realizing, I might have failed or I might have missed my attempts, but I did succeed in all these other areas. So think about, what am I focusing on? Am I focusing on the limitations, or am I focusing on the opportunities? Am I looking at problems, or am I looking at solutions? So once you think about your focus and you're aware of it, it changes the way you see yourself. And then the third thing I want you to do is to actually watch your language. Ask yourself, what language, observe your thinking and ask yourself, what language am I using to describe a situation? Am I using language of complaining? Am I using words that are not powerful, like, oh, I suck, I always make mistakes, or, oh, I might have made a mistake, but I'm gonna get it right the next time. So this language that you use inside your mind and with your mouth will shape the way you feel, and ultimately will shape your destiny, right? It will shape your story. So your story is made up of language, it's made up of questions and answers that you ask yourself back and forth. So think about, what are some of the questions that I'm asking myself daily? Am I asking, and sometimes when we're negative, we ask ourselves, well, why does this always happen to me? And this language debilitates who we are, and it turns our story into a story of victimhood instead of a story of victory, okay? So why does this always happen to me? Why does everything go wrong for me? Why do I have to suck at this? Why does this have to be so hard? I'm not good at this or that. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at speaking in public. I'm not good at helping others. Like all these questions, why am I not good? Why am I not whatever, are questions that are based on language that is not building up your strength. And so today I want to invite you to watch the words that you speak in your mind and with your mouth, and watch the questions you're constantly asking yourself. So if you're asking yourself questions that disempower you, change your questions. Instead of asking, why does this always happen to me? Say, what solution can I find from this? What blessing can come from this? So from this problem, quote unquote. What can I do to get better at this? Instead of saying, why do I have to suck? You can see the different energy in the different statements and the different questions. So I want you to try that. So to summarize, remember, number one, to change and shift the story you tell yourself, remember who you are, remember your identity, and you do this by connecting with your spirit and really lifting up your spiritual life. Number two is change your focus. Think about, what am I focusing on that is making me feel this way? Am I focusing on the negative, or am I focusing on the positive? And choose to focus on the positive. And then number three is ask yourself and observe yourself to see what type of language you're using, what types of words you're using, and what questions you're asking yourself, and replace your disempowering questions and words with empowering questions and empowering words, okay? And to do that, you can read more. If you don't have that language in yourself, you can always read more, consume more of this content that you're doing today by listening to my video, and fill your mind with empowering ideas, thoughts, and concepts, okay, my loves? I hope this helps you. It's very helpful if you try it. Write down some pointers, write down some ideas that stick out to you in this video, and go take action on it. It's worked for my clients, it's worked for me, and it's something taught by Tony Robbins and coaches all over the world, and even some religions. And so I want you to try it, and I want you to apply it so that you can start seeing beautiful changes in your life. I love you guys. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, share it, and I would love to see you on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter with my handle at Nia Viso Coaching, or at Nia Viso for Instagram. Okay, my loves, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.